Today we are going to look at 3 true wireless IEMs, and they are the Bose QC Ultra, the Denon PerL Pro, and the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 4. And I chose these IEMs because they were the first to support Qualcomm's aptX lossless codec. And I've been living with these IEMs for almost a full year.
This episode is brought to you by Marantz, makers of the ISA award-winning Model M1 streaming amplifier. Click the link below for more info.
Yes, the Bose, the Denon and the Sennheiser true wireless IEMs have been all over Berlin with me, they've been all over Lisbon with me, and on the flights in between. And I've used them with a range of smartphones, so a Google Pixel 7 Pro, a Sony Xperia 1 Mark V, an Asus Zenfone 10, and an iPhone 13 mini. But you need to know that only the Sony and the Asus support aptX lossless. And this video would have materialized much earlier this year had the inner workings of aptX lossless been made clearer by Qualcomm from the outset. And I had to talk to Sennheiser's and Denon's engineers to understand what was going on under the hood. And I shared those findings in a video about aptX lossless earlier this year. And I will link to that video below in the show notes. But I'll remind you here that the hardware differences between true wireless IEMs, so the drivers, the amps, the DACs and the Bluetooth receiver chips, have more of an impact on what we hear than the differences in software, so the codecs. So let us establish a baseline for this video by discussing the Bose QC Ultra. And we will do that whilst also keeping an ear on Apple's AirPods Pro version 2. Now there are quite a few things that I like about the QC Ultra. So the accompanying Bose music app is simple to use and elegantly designed, and the UX I think is very mom and dad friendly. And that app gives us 3 adjustable EQ bands, so not the most that I've ever seen in an app, but let us not forget that we cannot EQ one earphone to sound like another earphone. Then there's the active noise cancelling, which on the Bose I think is absolutely superb. It's easily on par with the AirPods Pro 2 and probably the best of the 3 true wireless IEMs featured in this video. But there are also things that I don't like about the QC Ultra. So unlike the AirPods, the haptic volume adjustment is, I think, well for me anyway, it's a bit hit and miss. And that's a surprise when the Bose earpieces are larger than the Apples. And those larger earpieces are probably why the Bose aren't quite as comfortable as the AirPods. And you know what they say about bigger IEMs? They come in bigger cases. And the QC Ultra's case comes without, I don't know why, without wireless charging functionality. And I think that's a big miss by Bose. Furthermore, we can sometimes hear the Bose's noise floor when there is no music playing. So it kind of sounds like a low-level hiss with a light sprinkling of circuit gurgle. And we can hear the aptX adaptive codec automatically step down to a lower quality more frequently than the other devices, the other true wireless IEMs featured in this video. And it does this when the signal between the phone and the earphones weakens. Now on sound quality, the Bose is a bass-heavy earphone. So that makes them perfect for low-level listening to Snoop Dogg's Gin and Juice, and they are very good at fleshing out the wiry, shouty sounds of the Pixies' Gouge Away. But that low end can sound a tad overcooked when listening to Monolake's Infinite Snow. Yes, of course, we could EQ the bass downwards in the app, And whilst we're there, we might want to give the mids a bit of a nudge, because the Bose are a little reticent with male voices like those heard on giant sounds forever and a day. And the top end is smooth to the point of being boring. It's not as lively as the AirPods Pro 2. So if you enjoy a bit of sort of top end sizzle in your sound, the Bose is not the true wireless IEM for you. Next up, the Denon PerL Pro. Now, Denon's engineers didn't develop this IEM themselves. They kind of bought the technology in-house by acquiring an Australian company called Neura. So Neura, and now Denon's proposition, is an earphone that can be tuned to better suit our hearing capabilities. So the PerL Pro doesn't create an acoustic map of the ear canal like other earphones. It measures how we hear by playing sounds and then listening for the otoacoustic emissions that come back from the inner ear. At least that's how it was explained to me, and I'll link to more info on this technology in the show notes. But according to Denon, it is not too dissimilar to the tech used by doctors to test the hearing of infants. And once you've gone through the measurement process inside Denon's app, it's near impossible, I think, to enjoy the PerL Pro without your personal profile switched on. And yes, the Denon headphones app lets you store more than one profile if you want to try someone else's, but in my experience, anything but your own profile sounds completely wrong. Now, yes, I know the earpieces are alarmingly large to look at, right? I mean, they're big sort of circular coin-like discs, but they stay in the ear just fine. They have never, not once, fallen out on me. And I've had zero issues with long-term comfort. But if you want the most comfortable true wireless IEM, you still want the AirPods Pro version 2. Now, the case here is surprisingly compact given the size of the PerL Pro's earpieces. And that case does offer wireless charging, and it promises 24 hours in total of playback time, and that's the same as the Bose. Now, one benefit of a larger external facing surface area is that it's easier to hit play, pause, or turn on the active noise cancellation with the PerL Pro. And I like how the Denon play a low level sound to acknowledge each earpiece tap. Now, the tap controls are customizable in the app, where we also find a fit test to make sure we're using the right sized ear tips. However, Denon's active noise cancellation isn't as effective as Apple's or Bose's. In fact, I think it's generally pretty weak. And neither the Bose nor the Denon are as clear with phone calls as the AirPods Pro 2. But listening to music, the PerL Pro sounds more tonally balanced than the Bose. And there is zero hint of overcooked anything really. And sometimes, just sometimes, they can sound a little bit tepid. That said, the PerL Pro sounds more even in its handling of Mono Lake's. The album's called Silence. I recommend you check it out because it's an incredible electronic music album and it's perfect for winter. However, the Pixies' Doolittle, from which Gouge Away is the closing track, that album tells us that this IEM isn't quite as dynamic sounding as the QC Ultra, which is probably why I describe them sometimes as a little bit tepid. But on value for money, these are my pick of the three, because you can now snag a pair of PerL Pro, I think for around 150 euros. But judged on sound quality alone, the PerL Pro are my second favorite in this roundup. That's because the most dynamic sounding of the three here today is the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 4. Now, for me, the Sennheiser sound more rhythmically driven with that Snoop Dogg track, and their take on the others' Love is Stronger Than Death comes on as crisper and cleaner than the Denon or the Bose. And there's enough sizzle on the giant soundtrack in the top end to keep AirPods owners happy. But this isn't the only reason I've reached for the Sennheiser more than the other two throughout this year. So firstly, and I guess this is kind of a weird reason really, but Sennheiser have sorted, or they seem to have sorted, the TW3's glue issue. So one of my friends had a pair of True Wireless 3 and she had to send them back to Sennheiser 3 times because of the earpiece grill coming off. And also, when I tried to give my True Wireless 3 to a neighbour a couple of months ago, I noticed that the same problem had developed with my pair. So the glue that keeps the grills in place, it kind of becomes like a soft gooey liquid and the grill comes off. So I think Sennheiser, they've sorted it with the True Wireless 4. Secondly, I really like the Sennheiser's noise cancellation or active noise cancellation. It's not as effective as the Boses or the Apples, but the dedicated anti-wind mode works exactly as advertised. It's really, really good. And Sennheiser's Smart Control app is where we customize each earpiece's touch controls. And inside that app, we also have a 5-band EQ and a fit test. Thirdly, the batteries inside the Sennheiser case and inside the IEMs themselves see the TW4 play for a bit longer than the competition. So the case gives us in total, I think, up to 28 hours of playback from a single charge with ANC turned on whilst we're listening. Fourthly, this earphone uses the same driver found in Sennheiser's high-end IE900 and IE600 IEMs. Now, that might be the reason why the True Wireless 4 sounds so gosh darn expressive. Now, the TW4 don't sound as good as those more costly wired IEMs, probably because the passive tuning isn't as intricate, and being a True Wireless model, the tuning here is probably done in DSP. Fifthly, in my year-long experience, the Sennheiser are the least likely of the 3 IEMs in this video to scale up and down with aptex's adaptive codec. So this suggests a more robust connection between our phone and the earphones themselves, or one that better copes in sort of busy Bluetooth environments like train stations and airports. And lastly, so sixthly, is that a word? The TW4 are the best of the 3 with phone call clarity. So I make one long phone call generally, pretty much every day, and the people on the other end of that phone call complained about the Sennheiser the least in terms of call quality. So I guess that means my favorite True Wireless IEMs for 2024 are the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 4. But I'll be making a video about another 3 different True Wireless IEMs sometime in the first half of 2025. And I've got 2 of them already actually. But if you like this video, you know what to do, and join us on Patreon should you feel so inclined. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching. Oh, a few final thoughts here. This video covers 3 True Wireless IEMs that were chosen because of their aptX lossless capabilities. But number 2, what this experiment taught me, and hopefully has taught you, is that you shouldn't buy a True Wireless IEM or a headphone just because it has aptX lossless. Number 3, if you're wondering how any of these True Wireless IEMs compare to another True Wireless IEM, I'm sorry, but I just don't know. And no, I didn't use any of these IEMs to listen to Dolby Atmos streams. This was a stereo-only review.